So, M. Night Shyamalan's Knock at the Cabin is finally out in theaters, and chances are if you're a fan of his work, you want to know if you should A. check this movie out, and B. check this movie out in a large format like Dolby Cinema. Well, let's get into it. We'll first start by talking about the movie, and putting it in simplest terms, I found Knock at the Cabin to be a solid entry in Shyamalan's filmography, but not necessarily his best. Based on the novel by Paul Tremblay, it follows a young family taken hostage by 4 people who believe they must sacrifice one of them to prevent the apocalypse. The premise is definitely an intriguing one, and what makes it work is how simple its execution is, with it taking place primarily in one location, a cabin in the woods, alongside some fantastic pacing that makes the 100-minute runtime go by like The cinematography captures the tension perfectly as M. Night Shyamalan typically does, with many extreme close-ups and POV shots which give you a sense of claustrophobia. The biggest selling point in the movie, however, are definitely some of the performances, primarily Dave Bautista, who just continues to prove himself to be a great actor, playing this gentle giant of sorts, burdened with this horrible task of, well, having to try to stop the apocalypse. I mean, how would you react in that situation, huh? But beyond that, the movie is very tame. It's definitely not scary and doesn't have the same creep factor that many recent Shyamalan movies have had, like Split and Old from 2021. In other words, if you come into this movie expecting the old Shyamalan twist, maybe temper those expectations a little bit. All this to say, this is by no means a bad movie. If you're looking for a smaller scale and simple thriller about the end of the world, then I think this movie will work for you, but there certainly exist better Shyamalan movies out there. There also exist much worse Shyamalan movies out there, so this is like nice in the middle right there. But again, this is just my own personal opinion. You might not agree with what I have to say, so if you do see this movie, come back here and comment down below what your experience checking out Knock at the Cabin was. Did you like it? Did you dislike it? Did you see it in a giant format, which we're going to talk about right about now? Now I know what you're thinking. Hey, wait a minute, Mr. Brockopp, we're talking Dolby. This isn't an IMAX review. And to that I say, if there was an IMAX release, we would be talking about the IMAX release. With Dolby Cinema comes a massive screen, like one would expect with a premium format. The movie was shot in a 2:3:9 aspect ratio, so it's not gonna completely fill up the screen, which is fine for a movie like this, which does not have a great emphasis on spectacle. The movie was also shot with vintage lenses from the 90s, giving it a very unique visual style, which I do think the Dolby screen emphasizes quite nicely, grainy imperfections and all. But this still is a thriller after all, where sound will play a major role, which is where the Dolby can come in handy most of the time. And when it comes to Knock at the Cabin, the Dolby adds just a little extra kick to the soundtrack at times, especially in moments where it becomes a little reminiscent of the Jaws theme, which I think worked excellently. Besides this, however, I wouldn't describe this as a movie you absolutely need to feel in your bones, like some other movies that get released in IMAX or Dolby or what have you. The tension and the scares are very minimal here, so there's not a whole lot to enhance as far as that's concerned. That's just an overly winded way of saying there aren't really many jump scares throughout the movie, so you're not going to be hit with a boom every 5 seconds like some horror thriller movies, which can be a good thing. Plus, I'm not sure if it was an error in the theater or if I'm just really overthinking things, but it seemed like the dialogue in this Dolby showing felt just a bit more echoey than it normally should. I don't know, that could just be me losing my mind because it's 10 o'clock at night and I need to go to bed, but, why omit that detail, Overall, Knock at the Cabin is not my new favorite M. Night Shyamalan movie by any means, but if the trailers did get you interested in the concept and you don't mind a pretty tame Shyamalan movie, then go ahead and check it out. As far as the Dolby is concerned, however, if you were to say just check the movie out in a standard screen, no fancy speakers or projection or anything, if you did that, it wouldn't necessarily be the end of the world, no pun intended. So for the movie itself, I'm going to give Knock at the Cabin a silver unboxing machete, and as far as the Dolby experience goes, I'm gonna also give that a silver unboxing machete. So those are my thoughts on Knock at the Cabin. If you want to see another video from me, I got just the thing right over here. Otherwise, subscribe if you live talking by movies, and we'll see you on the Brockopp side.